but just for the record. And yeah, there we go. We've started recording.
Perfect. First name is Louis, last name is Miranda, Luismiranda, and I am the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Communications at DHS.
Oh, so obviously big news today. Lukeville border crossing has been reopened. In retrospect, do you still think it was a good idea that it was closed in the first place? Do you see any issues with the handling of that? How do you feel about the situation?
I think the men and women of CBP take their job very seriously. And when we take actions like closing a port of entry, they do it because it is the right thing to do. And they're resourcing their personnel appropriately to be able to deal with whatever situation may come. Now, is it the ideal scenario? No. And that's why we're working so hard every single day with partners in Mexico throughout the hemisphere and hopefully with Congress to be able to really fix the broken immigration system, properly fund our border security, and do so in a way that's longer term. And so we don't have to take steps like closing ports of entry.
With Lukeville, do you feel we could see it closed again in the near future if this influx of migrants continues to grow as it has been? Or have you guys been able to do something behind the scenes to, steadily keep it open and maintain those resources?
Well, I'm heartened by the fact that we've seen lower numbers in recent days. Of course, there's always some level of reduction during the holiday season. But look, this is why Secretary Blinken and Secretary Mayorkas went down to Mexico a couple of weeks ago, was a part of the work that we do on a daily basis to work with our partners on what else we can be doing better. And Mexico since then has also restarted removal flights to Venezuela. We've seen Panama do that as well. That's important to reduce the flow, not just through the Darien, but through Mexico. And that makes a big difference. And so we're taking every step we can, but ultimately, we do need Congress to pass a broader fix of the immigration system. It's been broken for decades. This is not something new. Administrations of both parties for years have dealt with these same problems. And what we want is to be able to properly resource the men and women of Border Patrol and CBP so that we can both manage our legal trade and travel. Mexico's still our second largest trading partner. That's important to continue moving, but also to reduce irregular migration and address the bigger issue of an immigration system that's not built to meet our economic need for labor and the labor supply that exists throughout the hemisphere.
Of course, a lot of businesses down in the Lukeville area on our side of the border have, I imagine, taken a substantial hit during this almost month-long closure. Any efforts, from the federal government that could assist them through, any perhaps grant money or anything like that to support them for the losses they experienced?
Not related to the closing. I think part of what we have done is to recognize this is the first administration that has looked at the broader broken system and recognized that every administration has released some number of migrants as they await their immigration removal proceedings. This is the first administration that's been providing support to border communities and interior communities to be able to address some of the challenges that come with that, to the tune of $86 million in Arizona. And it is something that we're going to continue to ask Congress to fund. That's part of what's included in the supplemental funding request that we've asked Congress to pass. And we want to continue to be able to do that as necessary. But our ultimate goal is to have a system that actually works to meet the challenges of the day, and that's properly funded.
And Governor Katie Hobbs here in Arizona, along with the Arizona delegation, wanted the federal government to call in the National Guard during this situation to support the resources down there. She ended up choosing to do it herself, but she wanted the federal government to do it. So basically, you guys would have to pay for those resources versus the state paying for it. Do you know why there was never any action to call in the National Guard from the federal level?
Well, I think one of the things that's notable is how quickly we were able to clear out the situation in Lukeville is precisely because we've been doing the planning and execution for 2.5 years to be able to scale to different scenarios. Lukeville is an incredibly remote area, and so it certainly presented challenges. And some of that stuff is simple things like having bus contracts in place so that we can quickly mobilize them if we see a search like this, to move people to a processing area where we can screen them, vet them, place them into removal proceedings. That's something that we've improved upon significantly. And so you didn't see this linger indefinitely. We were able to clear that out fairly quickly. Same thing in Eagle Pass over the last couple of weeks. We saw a surge there. It was cleared out very quickly. Even in September 2021 in Del Rio, we cleared that out in just over a week. And so the challenge is that we need the processes in place so that we're not having to call out the National Guard all the time. But we do have National Guard that's already supporting Border Patrol and has been since 2006 in a support capacity. That continues to work. Ultimately, though, what we need is Congress to pass a supplemental funding bill, though, that helps us keep that funding going, and that helps us look at the bigger picture of how do we continue to research an immigration system that wasn't built to manage the flows that we're seeing, and that isn't prepared to handle the realities of immigration broadly, because it hasn't been updated in decades.
And I imagine you would agree that the flow of fentanyl and other opioids and drugs coming into the country is of great concern. But we've seen really almost all of the checkpoints here in southern Arizona, Border Patrol checkpoints shut down, the I-19 checkpoint, which is a very busy checkpoint, shut down and remains shut down. Do you have any idea from Border Patrol when these checkpoints may start being staffed again to try and crack down on these drugs and human smuggling coming through the area?
Stopping fentanyl is absolutely a priority. As you know, 90% of fentanyl is trafficked in cars and trucks through ports of entry. So it's a combination of making sure those checkpoints are open, but also making sure that we have the right technology deployed at the ports of entry so that we're stopping it in the first place. We're in the process of deploying 123 new non-intrusive inspection scanners at ports of entry all along the border, so that we can detect and inspect more of the commercial traffic that leads to that trafficking. But we're also trying to tackle the supply chains, stopping precursors, before they get even to Mexico, so that we can make sure that the production of fentanyl is reduced, and then, of course, keeping it from coming into our borders. So it's really a comprehensive strategy. We're doing a lot through both CBP, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, as well as Homeland Security investigations on breaking down these networks at every level. And we're working closely with our partners throughout the government and DOJ at the Office of National Drug Control Policy. It's an incredible challenge. It's costing a lot of American lives, and it's something we take very seriously.
I think at this point it's been pretty well documented that China, in some capacities, has been providing precursor chemicals for the production of fentanyl to the cartels. What efforts have you already taken, or what efforts could you take to try and get them to stop doing that and take action to prevent that sort of coordination?
We have an attaché in Beijing from Homeland Security Investigations that works there to address precisely that issue. You saw the president deal directly with Xi Jinping in China just in November, and secured a series of commitments from them in terms of both publicly acknowledging and putting out information on helping stop these precursors, as well as helping feed into the database, the international database that helps our agents be able to detect and follow some of this traffic better, so that we can help stop those precursors from coming in, and the pill presses and everything else that's used to manufacture it. So there's work underway, but it's certainly a work in progress, and it's something that we're going to continue to just really overemphasize, because we know just how important it is.
And wrapping up here, I know that terrorist encounters, terrorist watch list encounters, I should say, at the border have been record numbers, much higher than years past. What efforts are you guys taking to lower those numbers, or what sort of information have you gotten about those encounters, about why we're seeing so many more folks that are on the FBI terror watch list data set being encountered at the border?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And look, not everybody on that list is a terrorist by definition. It could be associates or even family. And so part of what we do is to look at it all very carefully. I think DHS just turned 20 years old last year. And it's exactly the type of work that we're supposed to be doing, is to that watch list, which is managed by the FBI, is have the coordination and information, not just among and between U.S. federal agencies, but also with state and local partners and with our international allies, so that we have that list in the first place. So it's actually a testament to our ability to identify these individuals, that we're doing that, as well as an important part of the work that we're doing to make sure that we know when these people are coming before they even get close to our borders. So it's a complicated list. The numbers are up in part because of the increase in migration from South America. So that's certainly a factor. But the important thing is that Border Patrol and U.S. Customs and Border Protection are carrying out the very vital function that everyone they encounter, they're screening and vetting. They're making sure that we understand who they are, that we're tracking them. That's something that didn't happen 20 years ago, and that we're then able to do the follow-up that's necessary, whether that's in partnership with our partners at the FBI or anyone else, to take appropriate action, and then remove those individuals as quickly as possible, or detain them for whatever action needs to be taken, if that's the right course of action. But again, that's what CBP does: is it screens and vets every individual so that we know who's coming in, and take the appropriate action.
And lastly, here in the Tucson sector, do you know roughly how many migrants we're seeing come through a day? Are the numbers going up? Or are they going down?
The numbers have gone down in recent days. Like I said at the beginning, in part because of the holiday season, we expected to see some reduction, but also because of the work we're doing with our partners with Mexico and across the region. The question is, obviously, we're going to see fluctuations, and so we expect that number will go up and down. What we do every day is go out and see where we can continue to improve on that, whether it's, again, the work we're doing with Mexico, or fighting misinformation directly that we're seeing that the cartels and the smugglers use to try to instigate people to cross. We see a lot of people who cross who could potentially be using a lawful pathway, and now they're losing the ability to take advantage of that. So we're fighting the misinformation, going out there and trying to get the people to use official sources, and of course working with our partners. But again, ultimately, what we need is for Congress to fix a system that's been badly broken for decades, and to pass this supplemental funding so that we have the sustained funding that's needed to be able to continue to step up the efforts that the men and women of our front lines are carrying out every day.
Thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate it, and Happy New Year to you. Thank you for talking with
Thank
us
you.
today.
Happy 2024.
You too, sir.